Welcome to Episode 3 of the LDA of Texas Series, Teaching and Engaging Your Student from Home. In this episode, we will feature tips to bring order to chaos while homeschooling in the online environment during COVID-19. Featuring Heather McGehearty, who is co-founder of StandUpLD. Heather is the mom of 4 children with learning disabilities, including dyslexia. StandUpLD is a Dallas-based nonprofit support network for parents and educators seeking resources to support and inspire children with learning differences. To find more information about StandUpLD, you can go to their website at standupld.org. And now, on to our next episode. Hi, I'm Beth McGaw, and I'm here with Heather McGehearty. Heather is a mom of 4 kids, and all her kids are home now in this online environment, along with her husband, right? And so we're going to talk to Heather a little bit about what it's like to be a mom home in this time. So Heather, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll go into some tips that you might have for other moms.
Absolutely. My name's Heather McGehearty, and I have dyscalculia, so I have a learning disability that really profoundly affects me in math and as well as in test taking. And I have 4 children, and they all have dyslexia and audio processing and some severe dyslexia for my boys. And now I find myself in a place where I'm homeschooling, which is something that never in a million years would I ever think that I would find myself doing. And it's been a journey and a process, getting used to it all.
I bet. Yeah, I don't know how you do it, Heather. Well, we've been talking a little bit, and I'm going to share my screen here because you had some really good tips for bringing kind of the order to all the chaos. So here we go. So why don't you kind of walk us through these?
Okay, absolutely. So what I noticed when the kids were all home from school very abruptly because of the coronavirus pandemic, which is something that I never foresaw ever happening in our little world. I think everybody feels the same way. They just never saw it coming. So I think it was kind of the shock of it all. And then I feel like it was kind of like a grieving process of knowing that they're home and the big responsibility that I have to make learning a positive experience while we're all emotionally just kind of exhausted and worried and stressed out about our world, about our city, about our schools. And then you've got your kids that are home and they're worried and they're grieving the loss of not having their routine anymore, not seeing their friends, missing field trips, missing class parties, missing everything that school provided for them, all that great structure. And then now overnight, I'm supposed to homeschool my kids and, cook and clean all the time and load and unload the dishwasher twice a day and do laundry, be my kid's best friend, their disciplinarian, and, their craft buddy as well as their teacher. And it's quite frankly been very exhausting. The last time I remember feeling this tired was whenever I had toddlers, when I had a 2-year-old and twin babies. That was the last time I remember being this tired. So it's definitely been a challenge, and with that comes lots of emotions for the kids. And all of us sometimes lose our cool or notice the kids are overreacting to something that seems really small. And with that, I've noticed that it's really not about that small thing. It's really about the fact that our whole world that we used to know has been changed overnight, and we're all in this new reality, and we don't know how long it's going to last.
Right. Well, I know when we talked, you said that it was that you established a morning routine.
Yes.
that helped you get your kids kind of ready for the day.
Yeah, I was like, well, I guess I need to put together a homeschool schedule, which is something I never thought I would ever do. And so I was like, okay, let's think of like, what would we do in the morning and what time of day do we have to get up? And it turned out that some of my kids had Zoom calls at 8:15 in the morning. So I was like, okay, that means we got to get everybody up by 7:30, do breakfast, try to get them to get dressed for the day, feed them breakfast, and just start this routine. So once we did breakfast and all that, we'd have like what we call our morning meeting. And so the kids started kind of really telling me, well, this is what we do in my school, and this is what I do, and I want to be the calendar leader, and I want to be this, and I want to be in charge of the weather. And I never thought we'd have the weather forecast as part of it. So I have a 12-year-old who's not really part of the process because he's on Zoom calls nonstop. So the younger three, my twin 10-year-olds and my 7-year-old, are all very much a part of this morning routine. And so we do the day of the week, and we have somebody that's in charge of the calendar. And then we have someone who does the weather. And part of it's just looking outside. Well, it looks kind of cloudy today. And then I get out the weather app on my phone. We talk about that. And then we talk about anything that we're doing that week that might be special for homeschooling. So my kids are very into theater. So they started putting on plays for us. And so they decided each week who was going to be the director of the play. And the director of the play kind of picks everybody's roles, and everybody else has to kind of go along with it, which is fun to watch and interesting. Sometimes they have little fights trying to figure that out. And then last time my daughter wanted to have a puppet show, and so she made puppets, and her brothers participated in helping pull that off. And then she performed for us with the boys. And we even had a family dance party last weekend. And Claire got a monster craft kit in the mail and did these monster crafts. It was all about having a monster birthday party. And so then we had to do a dance party with flashing lights and costumes on a Friday night and dance for this monster birthday. And it's just, you just kind of have to let yourself go and just kind of go with the play and the imagination of the kids. And so I think that out of all this, the kids will have some great memories. And then the other thing we do as part of our morning routine is we do the date of the week, the weather, any special activities that are coming up, quote of the day. I try to find something inspirational and then talk about what does that mean. And then I have, my twins have been trained very well on mindfulness, and they're really into like the deep breathing exercises. And so sometimes they'll lead us in those. And that's been helpful. And trust me, throughout the day, my son Elliot will say, Mom, you just need to take a deep breath. You just need to take a deep breath. I can tell you're stressed out. And sometimes I find that a little irritating because I'm just trying to get something done. But it is good to have, that they do know that that does help them. And it does help me too if I could take the time to always practice it. And then the other thing we talk about is like where your joys or concerns or things that we're thankful for. And then we do a prayer. And it's basically like, God, please be with us today and help us to be patient with one another, help us to respect each other and have fun while we learn. And thank you for the gifts you've given us, and that sort of thing. And then that kind of guides us off into our homeschool morning and afternoon. And from there, it's a lot more chaos, but that kind of brings us together to get us all on the same page. And then we quickly are all doing different things, but hopefully it brings some calmness and continuity to what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, this sounds great. And it also sounds like you're learning a little bit from them too.
Oh, absolutely. I think they're the best teachers,
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a humbling process for sure.
Yeah, well, there are some things that, I as a parent, like you said, gets a little bit chaotic. And so you've kind of listed some things that would help kind of keep you a little bit more grounded. And so want to go through some of these?
Yes. Can we pause just a second? Claire, I'm on a call right now. I don't know where Dad is. He's in the house somewhere. You'll have to look for him. I'm sorry. And maybe we just leave that part of the recording because that's real life right now. So that it could easily happen again. This interruption or any other thing could happen.
Yeah.
Some of the things that my husband has been working from home for a couple of weeks. We're really thankful that he's been able to do that. And with him working from home, sometimes I'm noticing that he's working more hours. And so I actually was like, hey, listen, you're home, we're home. We should at least eat lunch together. So I had to send him a meeting invite to get him to join us for lunch every day. So, but that's been good because it's something that we look forward to. Everybody gets to spend this time. And that's the upside of the homeschooling piece and the working from home piece, is that we can have that lunch together. And that's a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the things that we've tried to, establish, during this time is, trying to have the kids help more with housework. And even our 7-year-old, having her unload the dishwasher and learning how to do that. And the boys loading and unloading the dishwasher, cleaning up their rooms somewhat, and trying to pick up after themselves, trying to encourage them to do that. Definitely during this time, the house is messier than I would want it to be. But it's just kind of our reality right now. And we just have to deal, which has been a challenge. And then also getting the kids to go outside and play and ride bikes and that sort of thing has also been a really good thing. So, trying to get outside to go for walks as a family. And we noticed that in our, it's been a journey. So, the other thing is trying to establish me time is a real big challenge during this process of trying to find time to exercise, trying to have Zoom calls with friends, and trying to be social because I'm pretty extroverted, and so that's been a challenge. But trying to find that time every day to be alone, listening to an audiobook, reading a book, thinking about something other than the kids' schoolwork or other than the worries that are happening in our world right now.
Right.
It's also been a big part of that.
Yeah.
And then trying to think what else. So of course, getting outside has been huge, and being in Dallas, the weather's been so nice recently. The other thing that we've done in our house is we've really started to establish zones in the house for different things. And so what used to be our formal dining room is really now like a homeschool dumping zone. I did have my 12-year-old working in the dining room, but his Zoom calls became really challenging because I was always shushing everybody so he could talk, on his calls. And I felt like, we can't live life and always be shushing everybody because he's on calls all day. So we finally broke down and put a desk up in his room so that he can do his calls up there, and he's not distracted by all of us, and we're not distracted by the fact that he's on a call all the time. And the other thing we've done is we've created like spaces for creativity. So we've created an art zone upstairs, and usually kids do art downstairs, but it's basically been all over our kitchen counter, glitter and glue and construction paper. So we created a card table upstairs where the kids can cut up cardboard and glue things and hot glue and all of that. And that's kind of a good outlet for them. Yet it's not in our downstairs space where it's in the middle of the kitchen when you're trying to make dinner. So trying to establish those zones. And we've also put hammocks in our backyard so that kids can get in a hammock and, just chill out, and, trying to make it where they can use the backyard, the inside of the house as much as possible, and go outside too.
Yeah. I know that must be super hard for them not to be around their friends. And I'm curious, are they using their game systems and all of that any more or less because they're on Zoom, online all day?
I'd say that my 12-year-old seems to like to play games. Some of the games he plays are against kids that he knows, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them have done like Zoom calls with friends, but I'm not noticing that they're wanting to do a lot of those calls right now. I'm noticing that they're really wanting to spend, they'll want to talk with us, do art. They are on the iPads more than we want. They are playing video games more than we would want. We do have to be like, go outside, like go ride a bike. We'll go ride a bike again. Why don't you go on your scooter? Well, what if you take your brother? Or why don't we all go for a walk? So a lot of times we're suggesting these things, as I feel like sometimes they get in a rut. But then sometimes I'm thinking, are they on an iPad or are they watching something? And then I go upstairs and they're playing Legos together or they're making up a play. And I'm like, oh, cool. They're not just looking at a screen. This is great.
Yeah.
So it is neat to see that they are, sometimes collaborating and playing together and coming up with cool things that they can do together. And then the next minute they get in a little bit of a spat with each other. So it's been an interesting process.
Yeah. I'm going to stop sharing the screen
Uh-huh.
now so we can update. But I do have just a couple more questions and then we can wrap it up.
Sure.
So you've given us, I think, a really good overview of kind of what you're dealing with right now, and you've had some, I think, getting some parents some really good advice on maybe what they can do. I love the zone idea.
Mm-hmm.
That helps, I think, a lot too. I was wondering, have you had any trouble setting up any of these systems with your schools? Because I know you said you have some private school and you have public school.
Yeah, so with our private school, even though they didn't really do much distance learning before, this is all new for them, they implemented it right after spring break. So we have been working with them for 4 weeks now. And the public school, my daughter is in public school, also she has dyslexia. They just got started with doing academics. So basically we had a very extended spring break, and last Friday was last Thursday was my daughter's first Zoom call with her teacher and classmates. And I had to sign a temporary amendment to her IEP so that she could receive remote services for her dyslexia. And they are much watered down version of what she was getting before. So.
Do you think so far, I guess it's only been a week, so you really can't tell whether that's going to affect her or not.
Yeah, well, the good news is our daughter is reading on grade level, and I don't think her dyslexia is as severe as her brother's. And so because of that, we're not as concerned. If it was her brother's, we'd be much more concerned. I do think a lot of kids are going to lose ground. She was getting 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week of dyslexia services before. Now she's getting 15 minutes a day, 3 times a week with 5 other kids. And then there's all the complications of being on Zoom and then being first graders. And so I think the teachers are doing the best they can, and it's a challenging time. It's a time we've never seen before, and I think that this whole pandemic is going to force education to embrace the 21st century and all of the capabilities and possibilities that come with being able to do distance learning or after school tutoring, or reaching those in rural areas to give them that much needed therapy that maybe they weren't able to access before. So I think it's a whole new world, and I think we're going to see a lot of curriculums and really cool things that are going to come from this. And I think a lot of teachers are going to learn a lot about how to use the technology to be very efficient and to help drive home the points that maybe they taught at school as a good reinforcer, as some way to make homework not just paper and pen, but really take it to the next level. And I could see a lot of cool things come from it. Our public school, just didn't have things laid out as well. And I think it's just been a big learning curve for the public school system. But, with first graders, the things I would like to see is when you haven't seen your teacher for a month is more of the warm and fuzzy stuff being a part of these initial calls, and more of the teacher reading to the class every day, and not just once a week Zoom call with your homeroom teacher. I feel like we could do a lot more than what we're doing. And really what the kids need is that sense of security, that emotional connection that they had with their teacher and their classmates, some continuity of continuing to read to the class, continuing to do some of the things you were doing before, so they don't feel so left out in the lurch. Now, I realize that that's a challenge for some kids in public school because a lot of them don't have access to a computer to be able to do that.
Right, right. Yeah, it definitely is a very different time, and I do with you hope, as you do, that we take all the learning experiences and use those, to help better our education system.
Yeah.
Um, so, with that, thank you so much for being with us, Heather. I think that you will give many parents out there some, you gave us some good advice, and you'll give them hope that we're all going to get through this together. And so, would you like to say anything else? Any last piece of advice for us?
Well, I just think, try to, have grace with yourself as a parent as you're going through this process. And, you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days, and you're going to have days when you can't get it all done, and days when you need to take a nap, and days when you're feeling super successful, like you're totally rocking it. And you just have to just ride those waves and try to, savor the good moments. And if there's anything that you've learned from this process, maybe it's something more about yourself, more about your family, and with having to not be able to go anywhere, is there anything after this that you would eliminate from your life? Is there anything that you would continue to do, or anything you would do differently? And let this be a time where you're reflecting on that as you're parenting your kids, so that from all this craziness, maybe something good can come out of it.
Thank you. Those are great words of advice. Well, we appreciate you being with us today. And if anyone has any questions, then they can put them in the comment box when we post this on Facebook.
All right. Thank you so much, Beth. It was wonderful talking to you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.